So we're fighting a coronavirus pandemic. But what about the swarms?
An enemy far more lethal than any human force.
Even in bad Hollywood movies, bugs make our skin crawl. But when they're real, and there's a COVID-19 pandemic, that's a huge problem that just got worse. And right now, the UN says swarms, some as big as a city, are eating their way through Pakistan and the Horn of Africa. So can we stop this plague of locusts? Or will the coronavirus ruin any chance of getting these swarms under control? So while we've been stuck inside because of the coronavirus, outside there's been a plague of locusts. Locusts are like grasshoppers on steroids. Under the right conditions, some of these members of the grasshopper family morph into locusts. This plague is threatening the crops and livelihoods of tens of millions of people. Kenya hasn't had it this bad in 70 years. Ethiopia and Somalia haven't seen anything like it in 25. Locusts are also in Eritrea, Uganda, and South Sudan. The threat dates back to 2018, when wet weather led to a population explosion. And with the rainy season, the UN says the number of locusts could increase by 20 times.
If you imagine that in 1 square kilometer you have 50 million individuals, then you can calculate how many there are. It are billions and billions of locusts.
And the timing is horrible. Their arrival in the Horn of Africa coincides with the main planting season.
Cleared to drop.
In South Sudan, even before the locusts invaded, 5.3 million people couldn't get enough to eat. A peace deal had raised the prospect of more farmers planting this season, but now...
This is the perfect time for the swarms to destroy all the croplands. Unless we take measures, the food insecurity situation of the next coming scenario will be the worst.
So what's behind the swarm? Why now? Well, many people say it's shifting weather patterns because of global warming. So we looked into it. Big cyclones in the Arabian Peninsula are rare. There have only been 3 in the last 50 years. That was until May 2018. That's when Cyclone Mekunu hit, followed by Cyclone Luban only 5 months later. Together, they dumped enough water across 4 countries to create an ideal breeding ground for the locusts.
Probably enough for about 3 generations of breeding, so over a 9-month period. So that's roughly about an 8,000-fold increase in locusts between about June of 2018 and March of 2019.
Then last December, another cyclone hit northeastern Somalia and eastern Ethiopia. Is it all because of climate change? Hard to say 100%. But what we do know is this.
There's a climate system that affects that part of the world called the Indian Ocean Dipole. But when it turns to positive phase, it causes more extreme rainfall and more frequent cyclones. And what scientists think is happening is that climate change is making this positive phase of the IOD more frequently happening.
If this trend continues, then yeah, we're going to get more locust outbreaks.
So how exactly do these conditions create swarms of desert locusts? Well, when it looks like a grasshopper, it's green, prefers to be alone, and can't fly far. But bunched together, like when they start to run out of food, there's the potential for real trouble. Crowding causes the grasshoppers to brush up against each other and can activate special hairs on their back legs that send signals to the bug's central nervous system. It releases a neurotransmitter called serotonin that triggers all sorts of changes in how the grasshoppers behave and how they look. They develop larger wings, turn yellow, and grow to about the size of your index finger. Even their brains get bigger.
Well, they don't get smarter, but their behavior changes, and they change from being a solitary animal to a gregarious animal. That's one of the changes. But the other change is also that they eat many more different plants.
They also like to move more. As underdeveloped insects, they live in about 30 countries. But transformed, the desert locust can spread to twice that many. They can end up as far as Portugal and Spain.
They have such an ability to fly 150 kilometers, 200 kilometers, aided by the wind, and that makes them one of the most are dangerous migratory species. They don't require visas, don't request for it, they just move.
And now they've moved into Pakistan. The government there has declared a state of emergency because agriculture represents about 1/4 of GDP.
ਜ਼ਮੀਨ ਹੀ ਸਾਡੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਇਹ ਅਸੀਂ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਫਸਲਾਂ ਦਾ ਹੀ ਹਲ ਵੀ ਤੰਗ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ ਕਣਕ ਆਈ ਬਰਸੇ ਮਾਈ ਚਾਰਾ ਸਭ ਕੁਝ ਆ ਉਹ ਸਾਡਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈ ਨਾ ਉਹ ਖਾ ਗਈ ਹੈ.
And the COVID-19 pandemic is complicating things. In Somalia, pesticides expected at the end of March have been delayed because of cargo flight restrictions. In Kenya, lockdowns have messed up the delivery of pesticides. Fewer flights mean shipping costs have reportedly tripled in some cases. To control the swarms, people in the past have actually suggested using giant nets, flamethrowers, lasers, and huge vacuums. Some say we should just eat them. I'm told locusts are a good source of protein. But there's no way anyone is eating their way out of this plague. There are just too many of them. And you also have to watch that you don't pick the wrong ones.
Yeah, of course you can eat them, no problem. Except you have to be careful when they are sprayed, because of course you poison people.
Insecticides are controversial, but they're the only thing that seems to work. For the first time in Africa, they're trying out a biopesticide based on fungus. They say it isn't harmful to people or the environment. There are other issues though. Finding the locusts can be tough. Africa is bigger than Canada, the US, and China combined.
Where do you have your pesticides? Where do you have your planes? Where do you have your cars? So it is really a logistic nightmare to control them.
And using insecticides also requires specially trained people for precision spraying. Right now, that's just not happening because of the coronavirus ban on groups.
It's like a very well choreographed, dance. In fact, and if one thing is missing, the dance is a flop.
These locusts are a threat to millions of people. Some are already starving. And now those same people are bracing themselves for COVID-19. A plague or a pandemic on its own is a disaster. But together, it's hard to imagine how people will cope without some sort of help. We don't know when we'll be back on the Start Here set, but not to worry. We're still going to be bringing you more episodes any way we can. In the meantime, our website, aljazeera.com, has all the latest on the coronavirus pandemic. I'll see you next week.